Ernest Hemingway. Surveillance, silence, and the fate he couldn't escape. Ernest Hemingway believed the FBI was watching him. His doctors called it paranoia. His friends dismissed it as obsession. His wife begged him to stop talking about it. They were all wrong. After his death, the FBI released his file. They had been watching him. This is not the Hemingway of bravado and legend. This is the story of what happens when truth, war, art, trauma, politics, and power collide. Ernest Hemingway built his life around control. Control over fear, control over pain, control over the story told about him. He boxed, he hunted, he drank, he cultivated the image of a man who could endure anything. But the myth was armor, because beneath it lived a man who had seen too much, too young, and never escaped it. In 1918, at 19, Hemingway served as an ambulance driver in Italy in World War I. He was not accepted into the US military due to his eyesight, so he joined the Red Cross and was in the middle of all the horrible action. He expected heroism. What he found was industrial slaughter. He carried mangled bodies. He saw civilians caught between artillery fire. He learned quickly that war was not glorious. It was mechanical and indifferent. Then came the explosion. A mortar blast hit near him, driving more than 200 pieces of shrapnel into his legs. He was knocked unconscious. He survived and helped carry a wounded soldier to safety. The story became legend. The trauma stayed private. Pain, nightmares, and a body that never fully recovered followed him home. The war never really ended for Hemingway. Instead of retreating from violence, he returned to it. In Spain, during the Civil War, he witnessed executions, ideological terror, and civilians used as warnings. Here, violence wasn't distant. It was personal. Friends turned on friends. Fear became policy. Hemingway stopped writing about heroism and began writing about endurance, about what it costs to stay alive. During World War II, he again placed himself near combat, witnessing bombed cities and displaced civilians. Trauma didn't announce itself. It accumulated. In 1928, Hemingway's father, Clarence, shot himself. He was chronically ill, depressed, and financially strained. He believed he had become a burden. Hemingway publicly condemned the act as cowardice. Privately, it terrified him, because he understood the logic, not despair, but loss of control. And he feared one day reaching the same calculation. Hemingway's fast and adventurous lifestyle accelerated the damage to his body and mind. Boxing, heavy drinking, and repeated concussions. Then, in 1954, Africa. On safari, he survived 2 plane crashes in 2 days. The first aircraft struck a wire and crashed. He suffered head trauma and internal injuries. The next day, the rescue plane exploded on takeoff. He was burned, concussed again, and suffered spinal and organ damage. Newspapers briefly reported him dead. He survived, but something didn't return with him. From this point on, his memory declined. His moods darkened and writing became painful. This wasn't aging. It was cumulative trauma. During the Cold War, Hemingway lived part-time in Cuba. That was enough. The FBI monitored his mail, finances, and movements. Hemingway noticed. He spoke openly about being watched. Doctors diagnosed paranoia. After his death, the FBI confirmed the surveillance. The fear had been real. The diagnosis erased that fact. In late 1960, Hemingway was hospitalized at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. He was treated by Dr. George W. Savin Jr., with influence from Dr. Howard Rohn. He was diagnosed with severe depression and paranoia. The treatment was electroconvulsive therapy. The effects were devastating. He lost memory, he lost confidence, and most devastatingly, he lost the ability to write. He asked, "What is the sense of ruining my head and erasing my memory and putting me out of business?" For Hemingway, memory was the work. Without it, identity collapsed. There is no evidence his doctors coordinated with the FBI, but this was an era when political fear and mental illness blurred together. Reality fed the diagnosis. The diagnosis erased reality. Hemingway had seen this before. His friend Ezra Pound had been imprisoned, caged, declared mentally unfit, and institutionalized for 12 years. Publicly, Pound's fate looked worse, but Pound survived. His mind intact as well as his family after his release. Pound returned to Italy. He lived quietly in a castle. He walked. He aged. He wrote little. He spent time with his wife, his daughter, and his grandchildren. He was no longer watched. He was allowed to live peacefully. Hemingway could not imagine or accept that life. Without writing, without control, without meaning forged from suffering. To live quietly felt like erasure. To be institutionalized felt inevitable. And he remembered his father and felt his pain deeply. Released from the Mayo Clinic, Hemingway returned to Ketchum, Idaho. He believed he would be recommitted. He believed he would never write again. Belief is a powerful force. On July 2nd, 1961, he woke early. His wife was asleep. There was no note, no performance, only a decision shaped by decades of trauma, injury, and fear of helplessness. He had control in this final act of violence against his broken body and mind. His death was initially described as an accident. This protected the family, preserved the myth. The truth came later. In closing, Ezra Pound lived long enough to fade into distant collective memory, completely detaching, even if not by choice, from the America he was born in. Ernest Hemingway did not, yet his name and works are more prolific in current times. One man survived disgrace, imprisonment, and banishment and lived to an old age. The other could not survive erasure, medical control and coercion, a lifetime of failed marriages, being stalked and monitored by the government of his homeland, and he could not overcome the sins of his father, now tied together forever in death. Hemingway didn't lose his mind. He lost the space to live with what he had seen